All right, we are back once again, and another bombshell for you guys. Another bombshell for you guys. A lot of information to swallow here, man. And just like I told you many times in other videos, when dealing with how things get done in boxing, I always explain to you guys that a lot of these rules have loopholes in them. A lot of these rules are up to the sanctioning bodies to enforce them if they choose to do so. And there's ways around having these rules enforced, particularly the WBC is one sanctioning body that gives itself a lot of escape routes when it comes to enforcing their rules. If you look at some of the way these rules are written in the WBC's uh, rule book here, you'll see that a lot of this is, dependent upon their discretion, because a lot of these rules say solely by or on the discretion um, by the WBC. Discretion, I should say. So solely or dependent upon the discretion of the WBC. So let's read one rule here for mandatory challenges. Okay. Mandatory defense obligations. All WBC champions shall make at least one mandatory defense per year, unless an exception is granted by the WBC in its sole discretion. So I'm going to read a couple of these rules to you, and I want you to count how many times the WBC includes in its sole discretion in their rules. A champion may be required to make more than one mandatory defense per year if the WBC has designated more than one mandatory challenger for any reason. No bout shall be considered a mandatory defense unless expressly approved as mandatory by the WBC. So doesn't matter what you're ranked. If they want to make you the mandatory, it says they can make you the mandatory. No bout shall be considered a mandatory defense unless expressly approved by the WBC and made exclusively against an official mandatory challenger designated by the WBC. So they can make anyone a mandatory challenger regardless of their rankings. And we saw that when they had Dominic Brazil be the mandatory challenger, even though Dillian Whyte was ranked number 1. So it's up to them to designate a mandatory challenger, and it's up to them to enforce a mandatory title defense, which is why Deontay Wilder did not have to make a mandatory title defense for almost a year and a half, close to 2 years, because it was up to them to mandate it and enforce it. The challenger who wins the title shall automatically inherit the mandatory defense obligations of the champion he defeated, unless the WBC, in its sole discretion, otherwise directs. Okay, let's look. So that's pretty much cut and dry. Pretty much explained that. And key words to look at here, or key sentences to look at here, are in its sole discretion and designated by the WBC. Those are the two sentences that you really have to key in on. Okay. So now, timing and extension of mandatory defense obligations. Let's look at this. Let's read this one to you guys. The time periods for mandatory defenses stated in these rules may be altered. See, they can alter the time periods if they want to, which they did for Deontay Wilder, which is why Dillian Whyte did not get that shot. Time periods for the mandatory defenses stated in these rules may be altered by the WBC in its sole discretion under special circumstances, including if a champion has defended the title in a voluntary defense against a contender the WBC may have deemed a mandatory challenger. No mandatory bout may be contested until such time is required for a mandatory defense under the rules and regulations, including any extensions that may be granted by the WBC. And once again, you're going to hear this wording, this sentence, this phrase, in its sole discretion. See how all these rules have this little provision in it, basically, at the end of it. Now, designation of mandatory challenges. The WBC shall always have discretion to designate a mandatory challenger by ordering a final elimination bout of 2 qualified contenders, or designating, it's up to them to designate a qualified challenger as the official mandatory challenger. At no point in time, in no wording here does it say the number 1 contender is a mandatory challenger. You notice how that's not put in here? So they've put it in their own rules where they could designate anyone. They could have the number 10th ranked guy the mandatory challenger if they want, because of the way their rules are written. Okay, so for the avoidance of doubt, the highest rated or the highest rated available boxer in the WBC rankings is never solely by virtue of such position the official mandatory challenger, notwithstanding anything to the contrary, including any communications attributed to the WBC. No boxer shall be considered as or claim any privileges associated with being a mandatory challenger unless the boxer has officially been designated as such by the WBC president or the president's designated representatives, and the WBC Board of Governors has voted to authorize or ratify the designation of any such boxer as a mandatory challenger. So once again, it's up to them to decide who the mandatory challenger is, regardless of the rankings. The guy can be ranked number 10. He can be ranked number 5, 3. WBC says, you're the mandatory challenger. We're going to enforce a mandatory title fight. That's how it gets done. Okay? So let's look at something else here. Immediate rematch policy. This is a WBC now. I'm not talking about the WBA, WBO, IBF. So I haven't really looked at their ruling on this, but this is an interesting rule too. So the WBC does not, this is the immediate rematch policy. The WBC does not recognize immediate rematch clauses in bout agreements. So they don't recognize rematch clauses. They could void out a rematch clause if they want to. They don't have to honor a rematch clause. If they want to enforce a mandatory, or they want to make a fight between two fighters, and there's a rematch clause with one of those fighters with another fighter, they don't have to honor it. They don't honor it. They said it right here. So the WBC does not recognize immediate rematch clauses in bout agreements and will not sanction or authorize immediate rematches unless it determines in its sole discretion, with the authorization of or ratification by 2/3 votes of the Board of Governors, that the conduct or result of the bout was controversial or irregular, there is sufficient public demand, or a direct rematch would otherwise be in the best interest of the division of boxing. The WBC determines that immediate rematch is appropriate pursuant to this preceding rule. It may order the rematch as a mandatory bout, permit a requested rematch as a voluntary bout, or sanction the bout as a special bout under Rule 3.8. If the WBC orders such a rematch, it may also rule the winner of the immediate rematch comply with the mandatory defense obligations existing at the time of the original contest, or may grant the winner one or more optional defenses per to fulfilling any mandatory obligations. So here's the thing here, guys. Here's the thing, guys. Eddie Hearn's going around saying he's going to sue the WBC because he's saying that Dillian Whyte should be the mandatory challenger to Deontay Wilder's title. And I'm gonna be honest with you. I agree with him. I agree that Dillian Whyte deserves the title shot, whether it be against Deontay Wilder or whether it be against, the WBO champion, because he was ranked number 1 by the WBO. But here's the thing, guys. Eddie Hearn is going to sue trying to sue the WBC, right? But Bob Arum had said that the WBC wants Wilder Fury too. He's already spoken to Mauricio Suleiman, said Dillian Whyte's time has passed. So the WBC is not going to make Dillian Whyte the mandatory, regardless if he's ranked number 1 or not. They already said that. They've already said that. The rules don't suggest. The rules state that they don't have to make him the mandatory challenger if they don't want to. It's their discretion. It's up to it's based on their discretion whether or not they want to do that. So Eddie Hearn is going to sit there and say he's going to sue the WBC for what? He doesn't have a leg to stand on. So going back to what I said at the beginning of this video, what this all boils down to, guys, is the sanctioning bodies are gonna basically put on the fights that generate the most money in order for them to get the largest sanctioning fee possible for the fight. So obviously, Fury Wilder 2 is a bigger fight than Wilder Dillian Whyte. So of course they're going to push for the Fury Wilder rematch, because why? It's a bigger fight. And the WBC goes through all this, this BS to pacify people. Oh, well, we're going to order Fury versus Whyte, and they're going to be the interim. They're going to be they're going to fight to see who's the mandatory challenger for Deontay Wilder. So they were going to order that fight, just like they ordered Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder. Okay, Tyson Fury said he's not going to fight either one of those bouts. And guess what? He's still ranked number 2. He didn't lose his ranking. So by them enforcing those 2 fights and him saying no, what was the punitive result of that? Like, how did he get punished for, if at all, by turning down those fights? What are the repercussions of him turning down mandatory fights that the WBC has ordered? They didn't punish him for it. Why? Because they want Wilder versus Fury 2. Now, if they didn't want Wilder versus Fury 2, and he turned down those 2 elimination bouts that were ordered, or those 2 bouts that the WBC ordered, then he would have been punished for them. They probably would have dropped him out of the rankings and said, well, we tried to enforce these mandatory bouts. You turned them down, so now you lose your ranking. They didn't do that. You know why? Because they want Wilder Fury 2. So Eddie Hearn doesn't have a leg to stand on here, because the rules that I just read to you state that it's up to the sole discretion of the WBC on who they deem a mandatory challenger. And it's up to the sole discretion of the WBC when they enforce that mandatory title fight. Okay? And they already put it in their rules that they can adjust the timing of when these bouts take place, which they did for Deontay Wilder. So now what's going to happen here is Dillian Whyte is going to fight Oscar Rivas for the WBC interim heavyweight title. And guess what happens here, guys? Once Dillian Whyte or Oscar Rivas win that fight, either one of them win that fight, they become the WBC interim champion. And guess what happens? Dillian Whyte wins that bout. Guess what happens, guys? He gets taken out of the rankings. Because why? Because he's the interim champion. People say, well, he's the interim champion. Automatically, he's the mandatory challenger. No, that's incorrect. The mandatory challenger is the fighter that the WBC designates as the mandatory challenger. And that fight takes place when the WBC decides they want to order it. So Eddie Hearn can sue the WBC all he wants, but no judge is going to friggin' give him the decision in this case. They're not going to award him the winner in this case based upon the way those rules are written. There's no way. And Bob Arum, shout out to IFL TV, was interviewed today by Kugan Cassius. And, Kugan Cassius asked him, what's going on with Eddie about suing WBC, making Dillian Whyte the mandatory challenge, whatever. And he said he already talked to Mauricio Suleiman. They want Wilder Fury 2. Okay. And, Eddie Hearn, he said, good luck to Eddie Hearn. He said, Dillian Whyte's time has passed. So this is what I'm trying to tell you about leverage, guys. The WBC, in their opinion, and it's pretty much common knowledge that Whyte Whyte versus Wilder isn't a bigger fight than Wilder versus Fury. So, of course, they're going to get behind the bigger fight, and they're going to get behind the promoter who has the more popular fighter. Once again, they know Fury had signed that huge deal with ESPN for whatever amount of money it is. Still more money than what a Dillian Whyte fight would bring. So, of course, the WBC is going to go with the money. Cash rules everything around me, guys. That's what it's all about. But isn't it funny how Dillian Whyte was ranked #1 by the WBO for the longest time? And then when Anthony Joshua had the WBO title, how come he didn't pressure the WBO to enforce the mandatory for Dillian Whyte to fight Anthony Joshua? Because maybe he didn't give a fuck about Dillian Whyte until Anthony Joshua lost. So now Anthony Joshua lost. Now all of a sudden he wants to cash out Dillian Whyte. He didn't give a fuck about Dillian Whyte for about a year and a half, but now he wants to sue the WBC. So it took him a year and a half to decide that he wanted to sue the WBC. Now that Anthony Joshua lost, now he realizes that, you know what? I got to do whatever I can to get any type of belt back. So he's trying to get Dillian Whyte versus Deontay Wilder now. He doesn't want Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder to steal the thunder from Anthony Joshua. So what's he want to do? He wants to try to stop that fight because it's in direct competition with Anthony Joshua versus Andy Ruiz. He wants to have the biggest fight in boxing, which he probably will have. Andy Ruiz, I think, versus Anthony Joshua too, probably would be a bigger fight than Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury, but that's arguable. But again, he doesn't want anyone else to steal the thunder. So he wants to be part of that. So it's funny that he never pressured the WBO, another sanctioning body that Dillian Whyte was ranked #1 in. He never tried to force them to enforce their mandatory when Anthony Joshua had that title. But now that Anthony Joshua doesn't have the WBO title anymore, now that he wants to make Andy Ruiz versus Anthony Joshua too, now his focus is on trying to cash out Dillian Whyte and have him fight Deontay Wilder for the WBC title. So it is what it is. It is what it is. So you see how these things work. It's not about the sanctioning bodies basically doing what's right, because Dillian Whyte does deserve the fight with Wilder. And he also deserves the fight with AJ. But Eddie Hearn didn't care about getting him the fight with AJ because he intentionally lowballed him, and they gave Gerald Miller a better offer, and they intentionally made an offer to Dillian Whyte that they knew he was going to refuse. So then they could turn around and say, hey, we made him an offer, but it was a bullshit offer that they knew wasn't right, that they knew wasn't fair, that they knew he was going to turn down. So then they went and made the Miller fight. So now all of a sudden Anthony Joshua loses. Now he's going to sue the WBC. Again, Eddie Hearn's a smart guy, but he does do stupid things. You don't want to be on bad terms. You don't want to be on Twitter talking shit about the WBC, going back and forth with Mauricio Suleiman on Twitter, #1. And you don't want to sue the WBC because, again, you don't want to bite the hand that feeds. So you don't let emotion take over business. And again, he overestimates the power he has in this sport. Okay? Because Bob Arum has been doing this a lot longer than him. And he knows how to play the game a lot better than Eddie Hearn. Okay? He's smarter. He's a lot smarter. Okay, than Eddie Hearn is. That's why he doesn't burn bridges. That's why he maintains good relationships. And the WBC has already shown that, they're with Deontay Wilder. They've already shown that they're with Bob Arum. Why else would Deontay Wilder be allowed to not have to make a mandatory defense for a year and a half? And I'm not justifying it. I'm not saying it's right. I didn't think it was right. I thought Dillian Whyte should have gotten a fight with Deontay Wilder. But he also should have got a fight with Anthony Joshua. So the same situation for Dillian Whyte was present in two sanctioning bodies. He was not mandatory, but he was #1 in two sanctioning bodies. But why did Eddie Hearn not push hard for Dillian Whyte to get a shot against Anthony Joshua because he was ranked #1 in a sanctioning body with a title that Anthony Joshua held. So you can see, the double standards here. You can see the double standards here. So he wants the WBC to do something, but he doesn't want the WBO to do something because it doesn't, suit his benefit. Doesn't suit his benefit because again, he puts Joshua before everyone else. And I understand why, because Joshua's the money man or whatever. But that prevents him from doing what's right by Dillian Whyte. Fuck Dillian Whyte over. He waited 2 years. He waited 2 years and he waited for Anthony Joshua to lose before he started, pushing hard for Dillian Whyte now. He's doing that now. So the WBC is smart. WBC smart. What they are going to do, they're going to they're going to put that interim title out there, and they're going to say, well, you're the interim champion right now. You're the interim champion right now. You're being taken out of the rankings. So you're not a ranked fighter by us anymore. You're a champion. Just like when a fighter wins wins a diamond belt or they win a silver belt. When Chavez Jr. was the WBC champion and Sergio Martinez was ranked #1, what did they do? They had Sergio Martinez fight, I forget who they had him fight. They had him fight someone else for the diamond belt. And what happens? They took him out of the #1 position to pacify him. And then that fight didn't have to happen for a long time because he was no longer in position to become the mandatory. This is what the WBC does. This is the WBC's playbook. They've been doing this for years. That's why they have all these belts. So they can say this so-and-so is the champion, so we don't have to make this guy the mandatory. When people put pressure on him to say, hey, this guy's ranked #1. He's been ranked #1 for a year and a half. All right, so we'll give him a diamond belt. We'll give him an interim title. We'll give him a silver title. So now we can take him out of the rankings, and now we don't have to make him a mandatory. And we can tell people, hey, well, because he's a silver champion now. He's a diamond champion now. They're doing the same thing to Dillian Whyte. And Eddie Hearn isn't smart enough in this. He's smart, but he's not smart enough in this situation to know what the fuck is going on. So instead of trying to fight with the WBC, he should be trying to work with the WBC and get in their good graces like Deontay Wilder's team has and like Bob Arum has. But now he's shooting himself in the foot. Now he's shooting himself in the foot. Now he's shooting himself in the foot. So I don't believe that's correct, young Merv. The silver guy gets taken out of the rankings too, just like the diamond guy gets taken out of the rankings. Because you'll see when they have the rankings, you'll see it. They'll list all the champions underneath it. This guy's a diamond, this guy's the interim, this guy's the silver, whatever, and he's not ranked. That's the thing. And the WBC, if they want to, even if you're the mandatory challenger, even if they're the mandatory challenger, they can order eliminator after eliminator after eliminator. So basically, regardless of what you're ranked, regardless of if you're the mandatory or not, it's up to the WBC whether or not they want a fight to happen or not. And what it's always going to boil down to is the money. It's always going to boil down to the money. The WBC did not order Deontay Wilder to have a mandatory for over 2 years or a year and a half because they wanted the Wilder-Joshua match. So they did everything in their power. They were the only ones that weren't enforcing mandatories. Did you ever notice that? All the other sanctioning bodies enforced mandatories. Why? Because Eddie Hearn did not communicate with those sanctioning bodies to not enforce the mandatories because he wanted the mandatories because he wanted to stall the fight out. You don't think if he sat down like Bob Arum sat down with Suleiman and talked to the sanctioning body, you don't think that he could have delayed a lot of those mandatories? You don't think that could have happened? You don't think he could have delayed that Povetkin fight? But no, he wanted to stall it out. He wanted to stall it out. And you guys call me biased and you call me this and that. I'm not biased in this situation because I think Dillian Whyte deserves a shot at a world title. What's happening to Dillian Whyte is not fair. But Eddie Hearn is part to blame for that. He's part to blame for that. The reason why he's part to blame for that is because if Eddie Hearn really wanted to be fair, he would have made Dillian Whyte versus Anthony Joshua too. But he didn't, because DAZN wanted Joshua to fight in the United States, and DAZN wanted a Miller fight. And DAZN was willing to pay more money for a Miller fight than they were going to pay for a Dillian Whyte fight. And it's no guarantee that they would have even accepted the Dillian Whyte fight, because they passed on the Dillian Whyte-Joseph Parker fight because it was a UK fight that they didn't think was going to help increase subscriptions in the United States. So it could very well be that if Whyte and Joshua fought, maybe, I'm saying maybe, DAZN would have passed on it because that's not the fight they wanted. So it all boils down to money. So it's okay for Eddie Hearn to do what's beneficial to make the most money for him and his promotional company. But when someone else does it, he wants to sue. I just read you the rules. I read you the rules, and I read you all the loopholes. I read you the rules, and I read you all the loopholes. Okay? I read you the rules, and I read you all the loopholes. So basically, the WBC is following their own rules because it's up to them to order these bouts using their own discretion. That's basically what it is. So I'm not even going to reply to the chat because I already read the rules. I already read to you how it is. This is not going to be me trying to fight. I'm not going to fight. I'm not playing psychiatrist here. I'm not going to play psychiatrist here. I'm not going to help you guys get over your cognitive dissonance. That's your own issues. Anyone that's disputing what I'm saying here, this is straight cognitive dissonance because I read the rules to you. Thank you, Merv the Cutman. I mean, no disrespect, but before I make these videos, I read rules. I actually, no disrespect to anyone else on here, but I don't think anyone does as much research as me before they make these videos. I see people making videos and saying things, but they don't provide sources. I'm providing a source. Shout out to Kook and Cassius. Bob Arum is quoted as saying that he talked to Mauricio Suleiman, and Suleiman and the WBC want Wilder Fury too. And then he said, good luck to Eddie trying to stop it because he's trying to block that fight because Eddie's a hater. Eddie's a fucking hater, and he doesn't want Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury to steal his thunder. He doesn't want any competition to his fight with Rivas Joshua. So basically, it is what it is. We already know what this is about here, guys. Because once again, Dillian Whyte was also ranked #1 by the WBO. So why did he push for him to get a mandatory shot at the WBO title when Joshua had it? Because he didn't want to have he never wanted Dillian Whyte to fight Anthony Joshua. He never wanted Dillian Whyte to fight Anthony Joshua. So he was in the same position that he was in with the WBC, with the WBO, but all of a sudden, the situation and circumstances change. And the bigger fight for Dillian Whyte would have been AJ. So the fight to make would have been him versus AJ, because he would have made more money in the AJ fight in the UK than he would have Wilder, because Whyte is not a big fight in the United States. And it's probably a decent fight in the UK, but it's not the biggest fight in the UK because Whyte versus Joshua would have been a much bigger fight in the UK than Wilder versus Whyte. So the right thing to do would have been to make Whyte versus Joshua. But the reason why it didn't happen is because DAZN didn't want the fight. And Eddie Hearn didn't want the fight. And Joshua really didn't want the fight. So again, it's not about what's right. It's about the money. It's always about the money. That's what it all boiled down to. And now Eddie Hearn is cut out of the pie with the WBC. Okay, he's cut out. So now he wants to sue. I will bet anyone any amount of money that Eddie Hearn, if he decides to move forward with a lawsuit, did I really say that Whyte versus Wilder isn't a fight? No, again, you're not listening to what I said. You're not listening to what I said. Again, I'll speak slow. I said Whyte versus Wilder is not as big a fight in the UK as Joshua versus Whyte. That's what I said. That's what I said. You didn't listen to what I said. Please do not cherry pick and take things out of context if you're going to critique me. I said the fight to make for Whyte was Whyte versus Joshua. That's what I said. Please quote me correctly. Please. Because I get very, very angry when people take me out of context. That's what I said. So please don't take me out of context and twist my words. That's not what I said. I said if Eddie Hearn really gave a fuck about Dillian Whyte, he would have given him the Joshua fight because that's the biggest fight for him. But he didn't because he didn't want the fight. He didn't want the fight. Whyte turned that down because he was given a fucked up offer. We already know Eddie Hearn gives these people shit fucking offers. That's why everyone says no. The quickest way to get out of a fight is give somebody a shitty offer you know they're going to turn down. He's not fooling anybody. And he's been the WBO mandatory just as long. So why didn't he push for the WBO mandatory fight? You're not answering that question. Why not? Why not? Because he wanted his cash cow to fight in the United States and get more money because the zone was going to pay him more money to fight in the United States. No, it's not my opinion. Because the fight happened in the United States. That's why. It's not my opinion. Because if they wanted the Whyte fight, they would have made the Whyte fight. They would have paid Whyte the same that they paid Miller instead of lowballing him. And they wouldn't have gave him the bullshit fucking rematch clause. That's why. And nothing you can say, Larry Merchant, will change that. Because again, I am not playing psychiatrist today. I am not trying to walk you cognitive dissonance motherfuckers off the ledge today. You will hang yourself today. You will hang yourself today. It's not opinion. It happened. He got a lower offer than they gave Miller with a fucked up rematch clause included in there. Whether he won or lost, he was going to get the same amount of money in the rematch, much less than Joshua. The bigger fight was Miller. And I said, regardless, the bigger fight was Miller, but it still wasn't fair. What's being done to Dillian Whyte is not fair. I like the Fury. This is why I'm objective, and I'm not a fucking biased motherfucker like a lot of you motherfuckers. I like the Wilder Fury rematch better than Wilder Whyte. I want to see Wilder versus Fury more than I want to see Wilder versus Whyte. But Dillian Whyte deserves the fight more than Tyson Fury does, in my opinion. Regardless of what I want, the right thing to do would be to give Whyte the Wilder fight. But even before that, the right thing would have been done. The right thing to be done would have been to give Whyte the Joshua fight. But now you can't give Whyte the Joshua fight because Joshua lost. So now, yeah, the right thing to do would be give him the Whyte fight, to give him the Wilder fight. But Eddie Hearn didn't give a fuck about all this, didn't decide to sue, and didn't start to try to throw his weight around until Joshua lost. Because now he's desperate to get a piece of the title at any cost. He's desperate to make a big fight, and he's destined, and he's fucking determined to try to block Wilder Fury 2 because he knows that's a big fight, and he doesn't want to fucking see Fury or Wilder get any more momentum while his fighter has taken a step back. He's trying to stop Wilder's momentum And he's trying to stop Fury's momentum right now because there's a buzz around them guys. And now they're increasing and escalating their profile while Joshua's profile is taking a hit. And he's trying to stop that. That's why he's doing this bullshit right now. If anyone can't see that, then you are fucking lying to your fucking self. So Whyte does deserve a title shot before Fury. And I am the biggest Fury fan on 2 feet. He's the best heavyweight in the world. I love Tyson Fury. He's my favorite fighter. But Whyte deserves a shot before him. So I don't want to hear I'm biased. I am biased, but I don't want to hear that I can't be objective. Okay? And Tyson Fury turned down the rematch when the WBC mandated it. He turned it down. And then he turned down the fight when the WBC mandated him to fight Dillian Whyte. And guess what? They don't give a fuck because he's still ranked number 2. He's still ranked number. This is what's going to happen. I guarantee motherfucking it. You want to know what's going to happen? This is what's going to happen. The winner of the Whyte-Rivas fight, as we know, is going to be the interim title holder. They're going to be taken out of the rankings. And Tyson Fury is ranked number 2 right now. They're going to bump him right back. They're going to bump him right up to number 1 after he beats this fucking Schwartz guy this week, right? He gets bumped up to number 1, right? He's going to get bumped up to number 1, right? Whyte's either going to have lost to Rivas, that'll bump him down off number 1, or he'll become the interim champion. And you know what they're going to do? You know what they're going to do? Tyson Fury's going to be the mandatory. Watch. Fucking watch. Tyson Fury is going to be the mandatory. And then by the time Eddie Hearn does get his court case, guess what? Oh, well, he's the interim title holder. We took him out of the rankings. The number 2 guy got bumped up to number 1. We made him the mandatory. What's going to happen now, Eddie Hearn? You might as well keep that money in your pocket that you're going to use to sue the WBC with, because you're going to fucking lose, and you're going to lose horribly. Okay? Okay? Jem, you should have been liked me. You should have never. You're starting to like me now. You should have been liked me, because no one can fuck with me on here. Nobody can fuck with me on here, because I do, as I said, no one does the research like me. I don't sit around looking for other people to do the work for me. I go out and do the work myself. I make the phone calls. I was the one that called up Bob Arum and asked him about that fucking offer that Tyson Fury got. Was it $100 million, Bob? He said no. Well, you're new to my channel? Well, you should have been known about me. I've been on it since 2009. Okay? I've been on this since 2009. And the channel that you do like a lot, the guy that owns that channel, before he started up, the first person he called to ask for help to get him started was me. Go back and ask that guy. He'll tell you. I've been around since 2009. Okay? Everybody wants to question me and argue with me, but no one wants to do the fucking research like I do it. No one wants to do the research like I fucking do it. No one wants to do it. Everyone says, oh, people have no disrespect to anyone, but everyone's sitting there talking about this fucking Joshua's father, right? They're talking about Joshua's father, and they're putting quotes out there. But where's the links to the articles where the quotes are? Where's video to him being interviewed saying these things? No one. Go look for that shit. They can't be provided. When I say something, I put links to videos where the person actually said it. Okay? That's the thing. I put actual fucking links to articles, and I don't just put one article. I put 2 or 3, and then I put a video in there. So I do my fucking homework before I open my fucking mouth. And I'm not going to say I'm right all the time. Sometimes I'm wrong too. Sometimes the sources lie. Sometimes the sources will say something and it doesn't end up happening. Okay? That's exactly right, Mr. Boxing Today. The rankings do mean jack shit. Freza Kendo has been ranked in the WBA's top 3 for literally the last 5 years, and he hasn't even fought for 2 years. You're 100% right, Mr. Boxing Today. Shout out to Mr. Boxing Today. He does his homework. That's a guy on here that you have to respect. He watches fights that no one watches. He digs and finds footage of these guys, and he watches these heavyweights and these fighters that nobody knows about. So then when a fight does happen against a guy that no one knows, Mr. Boxing Today says, "What are you talking about? This guy did this. You know why? Because Mr. Boxing Today does its fucking homework." So, fucking Steel, real recognizes real on here. Steel shopping steel on here. Mr. Boxing Today's is an OG. He's been around since the beginning. And he don't fucking put out bullshit. You know why? Because he's not fucking lazy. He does his fucking homework like the Beeb does his homework. Shout out to Mr. Boxing Today. I agree with that too, Mr. Boxing Today. The guys that are ranked at the top should get the fucking elimination bouts, and they should get the title fights. But I read you the rules. WBC can use their own discretion. They give themselves an escape route. They give themselves a catch-22 in order for them to not have to enforce their own rules. That's what they do. That's what they do. Come on, guys. Hit the motherfucking like button, too. Come on. Let's get them likes up. Let's get them fucking likes up, man. 29 people in there, 30 people in there. I got 15 fucking likes. Hit the fucking like button. So that's it, man. Eddie Hearn can sue the WBC all he wants. He can sue the WBC all he wants, but he doesn't have a leg to stand on. Okay? And once again, his hypocrisy reigns true because he did not enforce it with the WBO. He only enforced it with the WBC. And the reason why he didn't enforce it with the WBO is because obviously his cash cow was the WBO champion at that time. And his cash cow had bigger fights out there other than Dillian Whyte. So it always boils down to the money. And the reason why Eddie Hearn wasn't crying about this before was because he was hoping that AJ would win so he can make the Wilder fight. So now he knows he can't make the Wilder fight next. And now he knows there's no guarantee he can make the Wilder fight in the near future because he doesn't even know if fucking Anthony Joshua can get his titles back. So now he wants to make a push for Dillian Whyte because now he lost half his chips at the poker table. So now he wants to go all in. When he had that fat stack, he was throwing one chip at a time in the pot. Now he's on tilt because half his stack is gone. 3/4 of his stack is gone. So now he wants to go all in because he's bust. Now he's bust. So if anyone can't fucking see this, then they are fucking lying to them fucking self. And let's get some super chats today, man. I'm making a video every day here, man. Thank you, Jem. Thank you, Jem. Shout out to Jem JM. I'm new. I like you go off on sources like some college professor shit. Not. I think keep up the good work. Thank you, brother. Let's get some more super chats in here, man. We're trying to get Robbie to zone. We're getting our new mixer. Once we get our new mixer, we're gonna have 2 mixers. Then we're gonna get our Skype. Come on, let's hit them super chats. $1, guys. $1 fucking dollar. Everybody in here, $1. Robbie does the Sunday show. Robbie does the Sunday show. That's what Robbie does. He likes to do the Sunday show. So we know what it is, guys. It's not about me being a hater. And again, I do hate sometimes because I get aggravated. It's hard for me not to hate on Eddie Hearn sometimes because of the shit he does. It's fucking hard. It's hard for me not to fucking hate Eddie Hearn sometimes. I don't hate him, but I hate what he does. I hate what he does because of the shit he does. Some of the shit he does is bad for the sport. Bad for the sport. Trying to block Wilder Fury 2 because he's a fucking hater. He's a fucking hater. That's the thing. Thank you, Benji. I know you will. Shout out to Benji in the chat. Shout out to Mr. Boxing Today. Shout out to M. Ben G, salute. Krista Green, salute. Larry Merchant, salute. M. Joe, salute. Young Merv the Cutman, salute. H Money, salute. Everybody, salute. Shout out to Blue Blood. All right. So, I mean, this is where it's at, guys. Bob Arum, check out that interview in the description box. Okay. Bob Arum had said that, and he also dispelled the rumor that Tyson Fury is going to fight a couple times. I believe, no problem, Benji. He indicated that after Tyson Fury beats Schwartz, that he's going to try and make the Wilder fight next. That's what he indicated. So, no, believe it or not, Krista Green, my blood pressure is fucking. I do a lot of cardio, right? I've been doing a lot of cardio right now, and my diet's pretty solid. My blood pressure's low, actually. Problem is my testosterone's high. That's why I'm all hyped up like this. That's what it is. That's not. My blood pressure's cool. And Bob Arum, who the fuck does he think Bob Arum is? You think does he really think he's gonna roll? He's gonna roll over Bob Arum? Thank you, Merv. Thanks, man. You're welcome. Anytime. 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 Okay. And I'm curious to see what the other sanctioning bodies' rules are with their rematch clause, because the WBC doesn't honor rematch clauses. I wonder what the other sanctioning bodies are going to do. I wonder what their rules are. I'm going to actually look up the WBA and the WBO and the IBF. I'm going to do that later today, because I was reading the WBC rules and I stumbled across that. I wasn't looking for that. I was only concerned about the mandatory rules, because I already knew what those were. But I want to see what the other sanctioning bodies' rules are in regards to rematch clauses. I mean, I just stumbled across that today, so I figured I might share that with you guys. So it wasn't something that I was looking for. So we'll see what happens here, guys. We'll see what happens. All right, I think I'm going to wrap this up. I will be back probably later today. Thank you, Jem. And tell your friends to subscribe. Tell all your buddies to come over here and subscribe, man, because I do the homework, man. I do the homework. Other channels may get more interviews and shit like that than me, but no one can break shit down like me, man. A lot of these guys don't break it down like me. I give you the real over here. I give you the fucking real. You know? All right. Beeb is out. Talk to y'all soon. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you, H Money. And I will talk to you guys all soon. Have a great day and enjoy yourselves.